Bless us now with the food and the fellowship we enjoy around these tables, we pray, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Okay, on the first nice day in May in Janesville, Wisconsin, and you're not golfing and you're here, give yourself a hand that you would come to this wonderful event. Yes, yes. Thank you so much. Because we know that it's a beautiful day in Janesville, so we're going to give you directions. The soup is out there. It's all you can eat soup. The desserts on your table, you must finish because we're not going to take them back. Coffee is out this door into the little room over there. And
It's on the table.
oh, it is right there. Oh, it's in this room. I was thinking the other room, but it is right there. Serve yourself and have a wonderful time, and we'll start our program at 12 o'clock, so you get to eat till 12.
I've got to ask this. How many tried all 4 of the soups that were out there? Anybody at all? Oh, then you got to keep going back. You got to keep going back. There's a lot of good stuff out there, and we want to just say thank you again for coming and participating in the Tin Cup Benefit Luncheon today. I would also like to say that the desserts on your table are provided by our Women's Auxiliary. So the instruction has already been given. Yeah, let's say thank you to the Ladies Auxiliary. And the instructions have been given. They don't want to take them back, so you'll have to fill your pockets if you don't eat them all to get them gone. Just a very quick point of reference. So you've already met Bill Anaker, our advisory board chairman, but the Salvation Army in every community in this country and in many countries around the world becomes very, very, very dependent on a group of local people that are referred to as the local advisory board. It's business owners and community leaders and individuals who have a heart for the needs of the community. They gather together on a regular basis and they give advice and instruction and guidance to Salvation Army ministry application in a given community. We have been blessed in Janesville to have the support of a very, very good advisory board. Bill is the chairman of our board. He welcomed us a few minutes ago, but there are several who are members of our board. Probably most of them are out serving in the line. But if you're a member of our advisory board, if you would just stand up, and we'd like to say thank you again for all that you do. If you would, please. And for an event like this, it doesn't happen out of nowhere. We need to have sponsors and companies in town who help support all that's going on. There's listed in your program a list of sponsors. We've got the Gold Cup, Silver Cup, and Bronze Cup sponsors for our Tin Cup Luncheon, and we just want to acknowledge each of them. And Gold Cup sponsors are Chambers and Owen, John and Sue Owen, Alt Financial Services, and Madeline Company. Our Silver Cup sponsors are Huffcore and Schwartz and Shea Insurance. Our Bronze Cup sponsors are Mercy Health Systems, Liz and Russ French, Melita Downing, St. Mary's Hospital in Janesville, Black Hawk Community Credit Union, Angie Energy Systems, Alliant Energy, and Culligan. And these are people and companies that have supported the Salvation Army for many, many years and continue to enable us to do the things that make a difference in the lives of people. We want to say thank you to our sponsors.
I'm Major Ruth Fay, and Bob and I are so thrilled to be here in Janesville. And when we came here, we met so many wonderful people. And one of the families that you read about in our invitation, the Prentice family, the children were really sad to get out of school today. But Jerry and her family are here enjoying this luncheon, and we're just so glad that they are here as part of the Salvation Army and part of our community. And Jerry right now works at our Salvation Army thrift store, and there's a new thrift store here in Janesville. There's two, and it's run out of Rockford. And don't you wonder why we would have a thrift store run out of another community? In Rockford is our adult rehabilitation center. So the donations that are sold here, that money goes to Rockford, but we are one Salvation Army, and we are allowed to refer people to free drug and alcohol rehabilitation. Now, if anybody knows what it costs insurance-wise to go into a center that you pay and what it costs to be rehabilitated, it's thousands and thousands of dollars. But the Salvation Army is committed to people, and you as a community help us help families. Heidi is one of those families. I love Heidi. Come on up here, Heidi. She is so nervous. She should not be nervous. She is a successful businesswoman, mother, and friend, and she is awesome. And she's going to tell a little bit of her story, how she was helped by the Salvation Army, but she also helps us in encouraging us. So, Heidi, they want to hear your story.
I'm nervous. My name's Heidi, and I'm a recovering alcoholic. I would like to thank the Salvation Army for giving me this chance to speak. I've been battling with alcoholism for years. I was molested as a child, married and divorced. I have 3 children, and I had a stroke at 32. That's why I have to write this, because otherwise I wouldn't remember it. I've been paralyzed from the neck down twice from alcohol abuse. I've been in outpatient therapy 3 times. They had recommended inpatient treatment, but with no funding available, they said maybe next year. I had lost my job. My children had been removed from my house, and I was living in a motel. I felt there was no hope for me. But when someone I knew from meetings had spoke of Pathway Transitional Housing through the Salvation Army, I thought this could be what I needed. So I set up an appointment with Ann. And as we spoke, she asked several questions, and she said, "Are you still using alcohol?" And I said, "Yeah, does that make a difference?" And she's like, "Yes, it does." And so after talking for quite a while and crying, and I felt I had no place to go because the funding in Rock County was gone, she asked if I would be willing to go to Chicago. There was a 6-month rehabilitation program down there through the Salvation Army in Chicago. I thought about it, and I called down to Chicago for 2 days straight, and just begging for help, begging for someone to please help me. And so finally on the 15th of August, they accepted me down there. I completed the program on February 24th of this year. I had kept in contact with Ann and Tammy, and when I came back from Chicago, they offered me housing and assistance to get my life together. I had started a job yesterday in my field of CNA and CBRF. So I have that. And then Child Protective Services had said that I could get my children back too. So right now I'm working on housing for me and my daughter. I meet with Ann and Tammy 3 times a week for emotional support, and I've started a Bible study weekly. When I went down to Chicago, I thought God had left me. I thought God didn't care about me, that I had all these tremendous things that happened in my life, and I didn't understand. But once I went down to Chicago, the Salvation Army was so helpful. They had morning devotion every day. We had church twice a week. We had work therapy. I mean, it wasn't like being confined. We were made to be responsible. And, since going down to Chicago, I know that people work, God works through people. And that, this is probably the best thing that's ever happened. would like people to know it's not progress, it's progress, it's not perfection. I may be sober, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to make all the right decisions. Life is full of lessons. I only know one who can judge, and that is God. Trying to find out where we fit in this life is what we all long for. That I want what I can't have, but to be happy with what I do have is the true test. May God bless you all today as we strive to do what we think is right. Thanks.
Success comes in many forms, and you know, when you're on the ladder to success and you're headed towards your goals, sometimes you fall off that ladder, but it takes a lot of people to help us get back on that ladder to have the confidence. And Heidi, you are God's woman, and so the Salvation Army in Chicago, where Heidi went to, is a new women's program. It's been a men's program for over 100 years, but we're glad they finally opened that door to help women and to know that you would know what happens with your donations here in Janesville to the Salvation Army store. It helps women and men just like Heidi.
Ruth and I actually want to take just a couple of minutes to talk about some of the things that are going on in the Salvation Army locally. And I don't think I could have crafted notes or a speech that communicates what the Salvation Army means to and does in the lives of individuals better than what Heidi was able to share. A demonstration of God's love in practical ways to help people become everything that He's intended for them to be. And that really is the whole focus and purpose and goal of Salvation Army Ministries. My guess is that most everybody here has seen a commercial that's been running on television. It's the USAA insurance commercial. Have you seen that? It starts out with a couple of little kids sitting there, probably 4 years old. I think they're twins. They look to be about the same age. And their opening statement is, "Mine was earned on the African continent in 2004. And then there's a series of relatively young people who talk about earning an opportunity at a place and a date that predates their own birthday. Mine was earned in the Battle of Bataan, 1942, spoken by a 28-year-old person. Mine was earned, and the list goes on and on and on. And well, using that sentiment, I want to say today, mine was initiated in downtown Beloit in 1941. Now, I'm not talking about eligibility for auto insurance, but I'm talking about an incurable love affair with the Salvation Army and its unique and effective brand of ministry. Let me tell you how that started in Beloit in 1941. It started for me there when a small group of young boys with a pocket full of soybeans and a piece of tubing that they called pea shooter found that the Salvation Army band in downtown Beloit made for good sport on Saturday afternoon. Now, use your imagination just a little bit. If you look at the bells of those horns, there's some about this big, and there's some about this big, and there's some about this big, and then there's the trumpet or the cornet about this big. And if you can superimpose them on one another to a group of little guys with soybeans and pea shooters, they saw targets, okay? The big targets weren't worth as much, but the small targets were worth a lot. And they would go down every Saturday afternoon to downtown Beloit with their pea shooters and soybeans and see what they could do to disrupt the Salvation Army band playing on the street corner and carrying on a little open-air meeting. Well, one of those little boys happened to be my father. And after the novelty of the sport wore off and all of the other boys found other things to do on Saturday afternoon, my dad was captivated by the music. He liked the sound of the music. He continued to go down and listen. And the officer who was in charge in Beloit saw that this youngster was interested in more than just taking shot at the brass instruments. So he invited him to follow the band back to the Salvation Army Hall and listen to them practice for their numbers they were going to play the following day in worship service. And Dad would go back. And after a couple of weeks, the officer reached in his pocket, he pulled out a comb and some wax paper. Anybody ever done a kazoo thing with, I was going to bring one, but I can't make it work. You buzz on it and you get this buzzing sound. And he asked Dad to play along with the band, and Dad did. And the officer was listening to see if my dad had a sense of tone and rhythm, and he did. And 2 weeks later, he pulled out a beat-up old silver trumpet and asked my dad if he wanted to learn how to play a horn. And that was the beginning. Not just for my dad, but for a generation that followed my dad. He went from sport to interest to trumpet. He found the Lord as his Savior at the Salvation Army Church. He found his wife, my mother, at the Salvation Army Youth Group. And when we came along as a family, it was my privilege to be part of a Salvation Army family that found activity and ministry and support and love at a local Salvation Army congregation. Well, 2.5 years ago, that peace-shooting trumpet player found himself in a hospice bed in the last stages of cancer, and the Salvation Army was gracious to allow my wife and I to come to a place that was close enough to be helpful to my parents. That's what brought Ruth and Bob to Janesville just 2 years ago. And for 2 years, it has been our absolute pleasure to oversee and to coordinate the ministries and the activity of the Salvation Army here in North Rock County. It's a work that not only preaches the good news from a pulpit on Sundays, but it's a ministry that demonstrates God's love in practical ways throughout the week, every day, every week of the year. And I'm very pleased today to be able to kind of focus your attention for just a couple of minutes on that annual report that was on the chair when you first came in. I certainly don't want to insult your intelligence and read through the stuff that you can read for yourself, but I would like you to look on the side of the page that says 2012 Annual Report and realize that there you'll see a lot of numbers that tell you a great deal of what happens in the Salvation Army in the course of a year. What it does not tell you, however, is how much those numbers and those needs have changed and grown over the past year. You'll see on the right side of that piece of paper that the Salvation Army here in Janesville is obviously active during the holiday season. And during holiday assistance time, there were about 1,000 different families that received direct assistance from the Salvation Army just here in our communities. Our emergency services that operate year-round and our Pathways program that provides much-needed housing for those who are getting their feet on the ground has another whole area of service and ministry. Following down, you'll see our Core Community Center, which reopened just a year ago, is very active. It's involved in not only after-school programs with recreation and education, but we are about to establish, the summer day camp program that'll provide opportunities for young people throughout the summer months. And there's a lot of planning and activity that goes in there. There's the worship and Christian education of the Salvation Army, and all those things together affect a lot of people. One number I'll point your attention to, it's already printed in bold, it's about halfway down on the right-hand side. About 20% of area residents were assisted by the Salvation Army. Our unduplicated count of service in North Rock County shows that 16,265 different people received some form of assistance or contact from the Salvation Army of North Rock County in the previous year. And given our population, that's 1 out of every 5 people that have had an impact, a life-changing impact of the Salvation Army. None of that is possible without the encouragement and the support that we have from a truly amazing community. Janesville has gone through its ups and downs, as you well know, over these last few years, but never have we ceased to make our goal. It's our responsibility to communicate the need, and the credibility of that communication has prompted people like you and businesses like yours to continue to support the Salvation Army to provide the assistance that's needed. On the left side of that annual report, you'll see a quick summary of the financial report. The vast majority of what we have to distribute and use in our community comes from public support. And I believe nationally the figure is 83 cents out of every dollar goes to direct service in the Salvation Army. And that compares favorably with just about any charity or agency that you'll find. We are happy to be able to participate in that way. And while I'm talking about finances, let me just mention one little thing, okay? See these red cans on your table? This was the brainchild of our Community Relations Committee, and I won't mention Sue's name, though it was her idea. It was somebody's idea anyway. And they said, you know, everybody's got pocket change, and they probably have a little receptacle on their dresser or a little place where they'll take at night and they'll put their pocket change. Just think, if everybody could drop their pocket change in a receptacle, and then periodically, once a month or once a quarter, they'd bring it in and they could donate that to the Salvation Army. It could amount to a tremendous amount of money that would continue to help provide for the needs in our community. And we kind of piloted the idea on a limited basis with several people, and already there have been several hundreds of dollars of pocket change that have been distributed. So it says, fuel the mission, pocket change changes lives. And anybody that's here, if you would, there's receptacles out at the desk there. They're right here on the table. If you'd like to take one with you today and put it next to your nightstand or maybe on the counter at your business, and just encourage people to drop in pocket change and periodically bring it in. What we'll do is we'll count it up for you, so you don't have to worry about that. And we'll give you an accounting or report of how much money was there. And when you bring in a full one, we'll give you an empty one, okay? And you can keep it going.
It doesn't even have to be full.
It doesn't even have to be full. But it's just another way that we can encourage people to be aware of the ministries and the activity of the Salvation Army. It's really funded, it's really fueled by the volunteers who make a very big part in our experience and in our story. And I've always, for 35 years as an officer, printed on my annual report the bottom line. Unlike businesses that are financially driven, Salvation Army as a nonprofit Christian organization has a new bottom line. The bottom line for us is, how effective have we been at communicating the good news of God's love to people in a way that changes their lives? And you'll be pleased to know, and I'm happy to report, that in last year, 2012, the bottom line is, as a result of Salvation Army ministry, 37 people, young men and women, boys and girls, gave their heart to the Lord and made a difference in their lives that will last not only for their days that they're here on earth, but will carry into eternity. That is our mission, and that is our focus, and that is our purpose. And though the message and mission is always the same, the methods continue to evolve. We look for new ways to minister to the needs of people as we move forward into areas of service.
The scripture says there's nothing new underneath the sun. It's just that we renew it and we revive it and we repackage it. We're going to talk about a little bit about our staff and our social service staff. That table here where Heidi is, and some of our volunteers and our employees are here. Rachel Fellman from our Milwaukee office. She heads up a new approach to ministry and social services. It's called Pathway of Hope. Now we have the Pathways of Transitional Living. Our Commissioner Carol Seiler put together a video, and it's based on meeting together with our National Advisory Board. I think Edsel Ford was the chair of the advisory board at the time, and they said, in this time of greater need and less resources, what can we do to make things better and make things work? And so Josh is going to put up a video. It's just a 5-minute video, and it'll tell you what a new approach here in Janesville is giving a hand up instead of a hand out and helping people to become stabilized. I guess if we have volume, you don't have volume? That's our guest. So stop that. I'll tell you about it. That was Commissioner Carol Seiler, and she was going to tell you that the advisory board said, what can we do? And that is come alongside families in a very intense intentional way to help families out of poverty instead of keeping them in poverty. Isn't that something you want to happen in 2013? It's like, how do you figure this out? And so we at the Salvation Army are committed to that, and Cheryl and Ann are the caseworkers on this program. Rachel, can you give me anything that Commissioner said that we can't, because there's a gentleman here that helps us with sound, and he's out in the garden somewhere on this beautiful day.
Sure, it's just really a focus on families in the local communities. It's being rolled out in a very slow pattern. There are 5 locations in Wisconsin that are starting this initiative, and there'll be 4 additional that'll be added this summer. And it has a focus on meeting the holistic needs of these families to break cycles of intergenerational crisis and intergenerational poverty. Not all of the families we work with will be 100% self-sufficient and able to, make thousands and thousands of dollars a year. But the focus is moving them further along than where they were when they started with us, and putting them in a place where they have less crisis and more stability for themselves and for their children.
Wonderfully said. So, on that note, if you'd like to know more about that or support that in any way, you can call Tammy or myself at the Salvation Army. And we appreciate this new way of intentional helping people get out of poverty and get higher up on the ladder and have less crisis. I like that. Less crisis, more stability. And that's a very good way to approach it. Today we have asked Miss Wisconsin, USA, to come and be our speaker. And I'll have to, somebody said, who's Chrissy? And why is she speaking here? Because she's a successful businesswoman and getting down to business. And Chrissy used all her God-given assets to get ahead. She's used her brains, her beauty, and her wit to come and to share what it takes to be successful in this world. We have several young ladies here, and we want you to listen and hear what it takes to be successful in this world and to give back into our community. So, Chrissy, we're going to ask you to come and share your words of thoughts here.
Hello, thank you so much for inviting me today, and happy National Salvation Army Week. My name is Chrissy Zamora. I was crowned Miss Wisconsin USA this past September and will go on to compete for Miss USA next month. Although you may think I've been competing in pageants for years, I actually just began this journey a couple of years ago when I was recruited for my very first pageant shortly after graduating college. In fact, I once was a girl who almost fainted while giving a presentation in front of my classmates. And as you can imagine, competing on stage in front of hundreds of people in a bikini can be quite scary. But I learned so much about myself through the experience. And discovered that this is something I was meant to do. I've always known that I was destined to be a leader, a role model, someone that can impact others, but I never envisioned my greatest leadership role coming from a pageant. With the title of Miss Wisconsin USA, I have the opportunity to make a real positive impact on others. My very first appearance after my crowning was a parade, and 2 little girls followed behind me the entire time. They were so cute, whispering back and forth to one another while following behind the car I was in. They reminded me of my sister and I when we were little, looking up to older girls and women we wanted to be like when we grew up. At the end of the parade, the 2 girls came up to me and asked all sorts of questions, including, Miss Wisconsin, what shampoo do you use? I know this sounds cute and even silly, but those little girls are a prime example of who is watching me and what my job is this year. Think about someone you looked up to when you were growing up and how their actions impacted you. As a title holder, you are a full-time role model, and with my reign, I've chosen to focus on empowering women to become the woman of their dreams, just like I'm becoming the woman of mine. I didn't get to where I am today on my own. There have been many people along the years who have helped me shape who I am, whether it's been at school, at home, at work, through pageants, or my community. I've always found myself surrounded by a wonderful support system. Miss USA will air live on NBC June 16th. With Miss USA just around the corner, preparing over the past 8 months has been a total whirlwind. There's a lot more that goes into competing in a pageant than people think. This is a national production, and I'll be in Las Vegas for almost 3 weeks. So I need to be fully prepared, and not only aesthetically, but also mentally. Some of the prep includes, but is not limited to, soul searching, interview skills, hair, skin, nails, teeth, makeup, wardrobe, styling, public speaking, and the list goes on. On top of all this, I have a full-time job. Things could have been nearly impossible for me this year, but I've somehow managed to get everything together with the help of so many local sponsors and businesses that are interested in helping. I was so surprised at everyone's eagerness to help me prepare, and I'm so grateful. It's almost like having my very own support team, and although my friends and family have been a big part of this, a lot of the people who have helped me I just met this year. In addition to preparing for Miss USA, my goal this year has been to impact others in the state of Wisconsin in a positive way through appearances, media attention, and encouraging young ladies to compete in the pageant due to the college scholarships that come along with it, which I would have found very helpful had I not already attended college. I grew up in a big family and my parents had 5 kids, so everything I ever wanted I had to buy for myself. I started working at 15 and haven't stopped since. Additionally, I worked extremely hard to pay my own way through college. As a title holder, it is important to share your story and how you got there. Many times, people think that these things come easily, but it is my job to let you know that nothing great ever came easy, and I could not have done it without the help of others. Just after I competed in my very first pageant, I was approached by a woman that had seen me on stage. She didn't know who I was or where I was from, but she saw something in me, something that I don't even think I saw in myself. I don't know how she found me, but she somehow got my number and had left me a few voice messages asking me to call her back. After a few failed attempts at reaching me, she showed up at my work. I was completely shocked when she came up and told me that she was the woman who had been trying to get in touch with me. Truthfully, I was a little freaked out. But listen to what she had to say. She said that she had a modeling school and that she was interested in helping me improve so that I could come back to the pageant next year and hopefully win. At that point, I figured she wanted money. So I politely told her that I would think about it, but informed her that I was in no financial position to spend money on a pageant. I thought that she would have surely been out the door after hearing that I didn't have any money, but she wasn't. She was even more eager to help. She extended an invitation to me for me to attend her classes, which were held once a week, completely free of charge. Surprised at her response and still a little apprehensive, I decided to take her up on her offer. From there, we began to form a friendship. She did in fact help me prepare for that pageant, but really, she had done so much more for me than that. She supported me, motivated me, and believed in me at a time when I didn't even believe in myself. It is because of her that I came back to compete each year and the 2 years thereafter. To this day, I can't thank her enough for helping me realize my dream and reaching my goal of becoming Miss Wisconsin USA. This is one example of how someone has helped me accomplish my goal, but I've also had so many other people show me support along my journey, and I truly couldn't have done it without their help. Every day we are supported by our friends, our family members, teammates, and our colleagues. However, not all of us are quite as fortunate to have people in our lives that uplift us and support our hopes and dreams. This is why organizations like the Salvation Army can really make a difference in the lives of others. Maybe they've been injured, they lost their job, lost a loved one, or can't afford school. This is when someone needs support the most, and oftentimes are without. Can you think of a time in your life when you really needed support? Or even better, can you think of a time when someone showed you support when you needed it the most? How much did that person's support mean to you? It's incredible what an impact we can make on others with such a small gesture. This week is a great time to think about those that have supported us and helped us along our journeys, because it's also the 60th annual National Salvation Army Week. What a great way to recognize those that have volunteered their time to do the most good. I leave you with this today to say thank you for giving of yourself and your time to make others better. It takes a community to help one become successful, You don't usually get there alone.
The message today says that we all need one another wherever we are. We are here to help one another, and God created it that way. We want to say thank you to a couple people who really are the backbone of our staff in having an event like this. We have Julie Cunningham, who is our volunteer special event coordinator. Boy, are we lucky to have her. Julie, we love you. Stand up. Verna, our business administrator, is out there making sure business is taken care of. She's out there, wave. And you know Verna. We want to thank our bandsmen who came from Milwaukee to help us. And we have started a small band here at the Salvation Army. You need to know that nobody shoots soybeans at you anymore, do they? But they play in our Sunday meetings, and they go out during kettle working, and Rob Boucher is our volunteer music coordinator at the Salvation Army. We thank you once again, Rob, for making sure that happens. I'm not the closing remarks. That is Bill's job, but we also want to say thank you to Josh. He's a volunteer back there who had no control over any sound, but it did a great job on our video, but we thank you, Josh.
In closing, I'd like to first thank Heidi for her courage to get up and tell us her story, and we all wish you well in your journey to success. We all give Heidi another round of applause, please. We'd like to thank Chrissy for making it, getting through some traffic to get here on time to make the presentation, but thank you very much, Chrissy. Again, I'm part of the advisory board. We thank everybody that's here today. As you can see from the annual report, without your help, we could not do all the things we do for the community here. There's a tremendous need, and the Salvation Army does a great job and reaches out to many different facets of the community. So we hope that you continue to support us as we fundraise and try to do things throughout the year. And on that, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. Thank you very much.